Ah, welcome back
Hey.
to I almost forgot who we were. Outside Voice Inside. I haven't been drinking, I've been smoking. I don't My brain is so on tilt today. Uh,
And it's one of those
episode
weeks. It's one of those
yes,
weeks.
it is. Episode 58, Spiritual Journey. Before we jump into it, I'm Syn Delano. My week has been me preparing to go back to school. I took a little break. It seems like I just left, but I'm going to do my grad school thing in a month. I was going to wait until the beginning of the year, but Biden didn't give us no extension. I don't want to have to start paying on my student loans because them bitches is high. So I'm like, let me just finish this loan up and knock it on out. So I'm mentally preparing to go back into hermit mode, not spending no money, not going nowhere, grinding
I need
down.
to just go. I just need to go into that mode just because.
Hey, and I mean, this is the perfect segue into it. We're talking about spiritual journey, so maybe you should do this for further enlightenment.
Yeah.
That's been my week. And what about you?
My week's been pretty
Who
pretty
are
calm.
you, and what about you?
Oh my I'm Tam Joyner, and my week has been pretty calm. I mean, except for this issue I'm having with the Wi-Fi in my house. Uh it's okay. And I would let you know that I figured out that it's not the Wi-Fi as it is my computer. Thanks, Mercury in retrograde. Um, so I'm having to try to figure out how to navigate this thing with my computer because my computer's fine and I'm not going to buy a new one if I don't have to. I'm not going to do it. Like, you know me, I like to go back. I would love to go buy a new computer, but I don't need a new computer. Like, this one works fine.
Yes.
Um, so outside of that, I've been okay. I just been working. Like school is about to start for us. So it's that last push for, to get shit done before school starts on September the 11th for us. So you gotta, I gotta keep, just keeping my head down and pushing forward. But other than that, it's been all right. I think somebody told me. I think Venus in retrograde is over. I don't know what it means really. I just saw somebody put up a post and say Venus in retrograde is over, and I'm putting on my shoes to get ready to try love again. And he was tying up some clown shoes, and
Oh,
I
oh no.
and so my response to him was that I just took my shoes off. Like it was my look, my friend in my head, Mustafa Shakur. It was him. Man, he's my friend in my head. And he's in Atlanta too. So I'm like, so yeah. But
Trying to go
that's
be a clown with Mustafa?
girl, yes. Why not?
If you do, tell him your friend loved him in Luke Cage.
Yes. He's amazeballs. What was the movie that I saw him in and I didn't
Oh,
realize.
Luke Cage and Cowboy Bebop.
Yes. It was a movie I just watched recently that he was in. Oh, Ghosted on Apple TV with uh Christopher Jamal Evans. And he was with this dating this girl and she was a spy, but he didn't know that. And she wasn't responding to his text messages, but he had left something with her and it gave him her location. So as a romantic gesture, he decided to go meet her and she was in the middle of a mission. So it's
That sounds fun.
it was it was fun. And then Mustafa Shakur was one of the agents.
Okay.
It just pops up in the movie, and I was just like, first of all, I didn't know you was in the movie, but okay. So yeah,
That's you
so
and
that
that's
was
your
a
week.
whole sidebar, but it's a good movie.
It's all good. We'll get into our speaker box first. You can go. What have you been listening to this week?
Um, well, R&B is coming back. Thank you, Jesus. Um, there's been some good R&B music being put out. Uh, Anybody that knows me knows I love Xavier Omar. So anything that he puts his voice on, I'm gonna listen to.
Yes.
He put out a song with an artist named LA, and it's spelled ELHAE. And they did a song called Favorite. My heart goes pitter pat. Such a good song. Um, Also, if anybody knows me well, they know that I go up for a fuck boy tune. Um, so I'm like talking about Miss Brent Fayez, because Brent Fayez is at currently the reigning king of fuckboy music.
Yes.
And he has a song called Moment of Your Life, and it features Coco Jones. For some reason, on the listing, when you look it up, like on like a streaming service, it doesn't have her listed. But she sings like a whole part of the song, like it's a whole duet, but it doesn't have her listed. And I had to go look at the credits because I was like, who's the girl singing? I know the voice. And then I was like, it's Coco Jones. And I was like, why isn't it listed, like that way? So I don't know what that's about. And then I wanted to take you back to some old bad relationship music that's good from the 70s. It's called The Sweetest Pain by Dexter Wansel. And people will be like, I don't know that song. And I was like, I promise you, if you played it, you would be like, yes, you know the song. Because every time I hear it, I'd be like, it's got to be the sweetest pain. I love you so, I love you, baby. I was like, oh, this song is horrible, but I love it. Like it's a horrible relationship song, but it's good music. So I've been listening to all the stuff. I'm on my R&B thing. I'm in my R&B bag this week. So
Yes. Well, that I think this could be termed as R&B. There's this artist. I don't know who this artist is, where he's from, or nothing. But every now and then, I just let Apple play whatever, and I listen to my radio station, and they insert things in there. And so they started playing this guy. I don't even know how to say his name. I'm gonna just say it. Kakunyan. I don't know. Kakuyon. But the kids be spelling things weird, and it'll be like,
right.
no, that says apple. And you'd be like, what?
Yes.
But he has this
that says Jones.
right. And no letters indicate it says that. But he has a song called Same Kind. It sounded like something my nephew would listen to, so I sent it to him. He didn't respond to me, but I had that on repeat. Victoria Monet, Goodbye.
Okay.
That is a true R&B song.
Yes,
Like,
it is.
I love it. I feel like I need to be sitting somewhere with a glass of wine.
Yes.
With low light. It's a great song. And then I stumbled on the sound. I don't know who had it. They had some video came through my stories, and it was a background sound. And I was like, who is that singing? And it was by an artist, Koruk. It's a white girl.
Okay.
And she sings a song called Emergency Contact.
Oh, girl, yes. I first of all love that song.
I love her voice.
I came across it on the video of her singing it on TikTok. And I was like, emergency contact. So I started listening to what she was saying, and I was like, first of all, I love this. Like, I just totally. And I was like, this is an awesome song. I love her. She's amazing.
She is. It's a cute song too. Like I really like it. You should if you haven't heard it, you should listen. Someone that follows me sent me a message and was like, this is such a cute song. Thank you for posting this. So people do be looking at my stories. And I say this last, but it's definitely not least, because this one probably stayed on repeat all week, was Summer Walker's song Hard Life.
Who, girl?
That is my song. I feel like she made that song for me. Yes, bitch. It is a hard life.
Baby, let me tell you something. Like, here's the thing I'm gonna say about Summer Walker. I never intended to really like her. Like,
Right. Like,
like
I'm like, it was a pleasant surprise though.
yes, it wasn't so bad when I hear stuff by her. I'll be like, I'll be like, why? Wait, it wasn't supposed to be this way.
She, you have to watch her episode of Carisha Please, because she says she has this thing where people try to box her in or whatever, and she was like, I'm ratchet. She was like, but they talk about you, so you can't be too ratchet, but then you got to be yourself. And she was like, it's a hard thing to navigate. But I love her. She really is like the modern day Mary J. Blige, because
She, she really is. She
we
really
know
is.
how ratchet Mary is, and Mary's never hid this.
No.
Like, Mary's been like, you won't deal with my ghetto fabulous ness, bitch.
Yes.
Okay? Mary came in.
Yes.
But see, the difference between Mary and Summer is Mary was never shy.
Right.
Summer said, she's dealt with that. She's getting past it. And I feel like a lot of that got to do with Tiana.
Yes.
Tiana's like, come on, bitch, let's do this.
Yeah, because here's the thing is that you can be shy in your life, but you have to have stage presence. That's it.
Yes.
And when that period window of time is over, girl, you can retreat right back into your hole if you want to, but you have to have stage presence. And I think that was the one thing that was hindering her.
Yep.
It was that she never really had any stage presence. But when she did that thing at the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra, I saw clips and I was like,
you just have to, I guess you mentally have to do it, because it still didn't make no sense. You used to be a dancer, but you don't have no stage presence. Like, bitch, get in your head the way you did when you was dancing. But I think you have to do it the same way Beyonce created Sasha Fierce. Like, you have to create this whole new persona that gives you permission to be the baddest bitch on the stage.
And that's really the truth. That's really what it is. And that if she gets that, ain't no stopping her.
I think Tiana is helping her get there, because she, even in her interviews, she's not like, she doesn't like talk down or like she make eye contact. She's expressive, so it's working. Whatever she doing, maybe when she became the priestess, her godmother was like, "Bitch, get your shit together. If you gonna do this, you better do it right." Yeah. So shout out to Summer Walker. Speaking of ratchet, let's talk about how the world is a ghetto. And I'll let you go first, since I have so many ghetto things to share.
Well, the world is ghetto. I'm not talking about Florida this week. I'm gonna leave that alone, because I know something ratchet did happen, but I'm not gonna even talk about Florida, because I think that this is a bigger issue. And no, it's not a bigger issue in a global sense, but for sports fans who all have Spectrum cable, you poor babies. Spectrum and Disney did not come to an agreement, so they snatched ESPN, all of the ESPN channels. Excuse me, something's in the throat. From their cable. And when they did it, the timing was really ugly, because it was in the midst of the US Open, but it was at the start of college football season. And people that have Spectrum went to go watch the college game, and they got a black screen with a message that said, "We not here, hoes." And we not coming back until Spectrum pay the $5. And if they don't pay the $5, you just not gonna have it. So I didn't even I don't have Spectrum. I've had Charter, which became Spectrum in the past, and they were crappy then. So no surprises that they're crappy now. But a lot of guys on my social media were in a whole tizzy, like having a complete and total nervous breakdown because they could not watch college football. And one of the guys I follow, he was losing his shit. And I said, well, you need to get that Disney Plus bundle. I said, because I realized I have ESPN Plus, which means I can watch all the UFC fights. Do I watch those? No, I don't even use it. But because I have the Disney Plus bundle, I have access to ESPN. Mm-hmm. And he was like, this is a racket. I said, time to get rid of that cable, boy. Time to get rid of that cable. So for you, those of you who are listening, watching, who have Spectrum, I am so very sorry that you have not been able to see the things that you want to see because of the ineptness of the people at Charter to get with Disney. Most of the time when they have these disputes, they're usually over in a couple of days, but it has been more than just a couple of days. So I'm not sure how much longer this is going to go on. I mean, tomorrow's a holiday. So maybe by Tuesday, it'll be rectified. But as of today, 5 hours ago, y'all still don't have no ESPN.
So, little tink tinks.
Poor babies. That's all I have to say for the poor babies.
Well,
now you, lady, with the list of Ghetto.
I'm gonna start off with the sperm donor who he wants to chase down a role in the lives of the 96 children he's fathered. He wants to show up as their father, and he has reached out to all of the families. Hey, I would like to be part of these children's lives. Now, excuse me. Some of these people are just like, absolutely not. Like, get out of here, weirdo. Some have been like, we appreciate the gesture, but we don't want to confuse the child. You're not the father. You donated sperm. You will not we don't want to deal with the issues of you feeling like you have some entitlement to the child. We take care of the child. Like, thank you, but no thank you. Some people didn't even respond to this man. Like, I refuse to acknowledge that. But some did. And I really don't like that. First of all, this article was in Wall Street Journal. And I don't like how they write articles because it just really comes out like, is this a conservative newspaper?
Yes.
Right? So the examples of the people who did allow this man to like insert himself, no pun intended, was lesbian couples. And so he comes into these children's lives. You have a dad now. But it got kind of weird for some of them. And they were like, we had to tell the children that's not your father. That is your donor. And make it very clear. And he's like kind of disrupting people's lives because he says he feels like he should have some say in the children's lives. No, you shouldn't.
What was the paperwork you signed that said
that? Because first of all, you donated when you didn't have any money. So you went and gave your sperm away because you was trying to come up on a buck. And now you feel like that entitles you to be in these children's lives. You have 96 children. There's literally no way you can be supportive in these children's lives on a scale above, this is Uncle Jesse, right? He just pop up when he in town. Like, what are you doing, sir? Ghetto. Okay. And yes, he is.
Of course.
European American.
Of course.
He is. But the ghetto-ness of the sperm situation gets even worse because in another article, sperm banks are struggling to recruit Black donors and other donors of color. So I see some of the venom that is hurled at Black women who are using non-Black donors, right? But let me tell y'all something. These Black women be wanting to have Black children. There's no Black sperm available. Is it because people aren't donating it? No. But these these sperm banks will have you believe we're just not getting the donors, similar to how companies do when they're having diversity issues and they give you that line, Black people just aren't applying for the job. That's not true, and you know it, right? And I'm going to tell you how, outside of the article, how I know these sperm banks be lying about availability of donors. So back in my youth, I tried to see about donating some of my eggs. They flat out told me, we're not looking for no eggs from you niggas. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but they were just like, there's no demand for African American eggs. Really? Okay. So me and my overthinking ass was like, I wonder what they gonna say if I pretend to be a guy and I call in, because I wanted to see how much they were giving to donate sperm. It's far less than what they give you to donate eggs, because the process is totally different. And you got to scrape these babies out. So they give you
Right.
lots of money to donate eggs, right? But they wasn't giving lots of money to no niggas. So I called the sperm bank to see if they were going to give me the same line that they gave me at, I called a few sperm banks. And they told me that there was no demand for African American sperm, so they would not be taking any from anyone.
But now you can't find none.
So I looked into this article and they were saying the criteria, there weren't enough Black people passing for it, and there weren't enough other people of color passing for it. But you got all white people passing for it. So the majority of white people don't have genetic diseases that would stop them from this, don't have criminal histories that would stop them from this, don't like, the mouth is not mathy. And I feel like it's some form of population control. Because now you got all these children running around here that are actually biracial. And yes, this is a big conspiracy theory. So conspiracy theory on my behalf. But I feel like this is a way to push us closer to where they can be like, look, we're a post-racial society. Look at all of the mixed children. We're not racist, but the practices in and of itself and getting the sperm, it's very racist.
Yeah, so super racist.
Very racist. You let this man father 96 children.
Like, was he the only? I'm so confused. Why was everybody choosing him?
Why? And some of them were going back to get the same sperm. This man was no different than your regular Joe Schmo on the corner. He wasn't like come from no wealthy family. He wasn't no Ivy League graduate. He wasn't like anything special. He wasn't cream of the crop. But he fathered 96 children. This is how you know them motherfuckers lying.
I mean, I feel like we was picking somebody else, and you just gave me this nigga sperm. Like I asked for the Ivy League nigga, and you just was like, "Well, we got a whole lot of this one." We'll just tell them. You know what I'm saying?
So you know, when people be like, "I think I saw someone who looked like you," you might have if my daddy donated some sperm.
Right.
I might, you know, but probably not because they don't take Black people's sperm. Moving on. I've got more ghetto. And this was going to segue into episode 58, Spiritual Journey. This old ass nigga,
oh Jesus,
old ass white nigga, former Cardinal McCarrick, was found unfit for trial over sexual abuse because he's 93. So you just get to commit crimes literally your whole fucking life. Your whole Catholic ass life, you get to molest children and young adults. And because the court deems you incompetent, you don't have to pay for your crimes. Lock him up. And I know some people feel like, well, he's old. Like, let him live out the rest of his years in peace. He deserve peace. He doesn't. Because he was
people
fully
he molested don't have peace. So why should he have peace?
So for anyone listening that isn't aware, a cardinal is like one step down from the Pope. So this man had tons of power, okay, for decades. He was walking around all willy-nilly, wielding his power however the fuck he wanted to. All puns intended. Okay.
Yep.
And damaged one of the young men who, well, he's older now, but he had been trying to get this man out of his position of power. And it took years before the Vatican investigated it and was just like, yeah, remove him. But nobody reported this nigga as for his sexual crimes. You see how the Vatican, like, you motherfuckers are evil.
It's so much.
Evil.
It's so much with that Catholic Church. So much.
Because you could have reported this man before he was 93 and before he was considered incompetent, but they didn't remove him from his station right away. They removed him after they got so many complaints. So children are expendable to you? Okay. Last ghetto thing about this that I must mention is because the crime was reported in one state, and the guy reported it when it happened to him multiple times. He had reported it. This state, and I'm not gonna, I think it was Massachusetts. I think maybe it wasn't. Let me not get to lying. But this state has a law that says if the person that committed the crime leaves the state, they can no longer move forward. That's real.
So what you're saying, based on that, what you just said, I could go to this state and commit a crime and then come back to Georgia and y'all would never come after me because
They're gonna come after your black ass.
Yeah, no, I mean I know they're gonna come after my black ass, but what I'm saying is that based on what you said,
yes,
I could commit armed robbery in that state, cash out, and then head back to Georgia, and y'all would not pursue it because I'm in another state.
That is what they told this man that has said this old white nigga of the cloth was sexually molesting me for years. And they said, sorry, there's nothing we can do about it. He's no longer in this state.
Y'all are a whole ass lie. Somebody gonna do something. Look.
Listen.
Somebody finna do something.
Call Dr. Kevorkian. Get him on the horn. It's time for Cardinal McCarrick to go.
Yeah, because somebody finna do something. Somebody finna do something. I don't care. Somebody.
Because that basically sends the message. If you can keep. Oh, that was the other thing. There are forms of sexual assault, y'all, that aren't considered felonies. They're considered misdemeanors. So that's how these people continue to keep doing this and not really serving no time.
And also that every time somebody complains about somebody, they just send them to a different church so they can molest some more kids in another state or another the state.
They are not about protecting the children. Itself,
which is, they can't, for it to be a church that cares about the people, kids must not count as people.
Right. So this is another reason why church and state must and should remain separate.
Jesus Christ.
Because no.
Disgusting.
This is that's now that is demonic.
Yeah.
Moving on. Episode 58. We are talking about the spiritual journey. And this is in a very, so we have this spiritual series that is up now. We talked about death. And so now we're segueing into the spiritual series because I think it's important for us to discuss spiritual journeys and how they're different for everyone. And I think the most common thing, like the definition of spiritual journey, because even if you Google spiritual journey, a lot of information is going to come up that attaches it to religion.
Yep.
But a spiritual journey doesn't necessarily have to be connected to religion. You can, everyone has a spiritual journey because it has more so to do with, becoming one with yourself, your surroundings, enlightenment, like really self-awareness. Really is like your spiritual self.
I giggled because I was like, I had a whole thought while you were talking about getting to know yourself. And I was like, I feel like my first spiritual journey I had was when I was in graduate school. And it was so when I say this, you're gonna scream laughing because it's funny. As an older woman now looking back, this is absolutely hilarious. But it was me, Iyanla Van Zant, and the book In the Meantime. And see, I see you're laughing because I feel like at some point there's a lot of Black women that had their in the meantime moment.
I have that book.
Yes, that I had my in the meantime moment with Iyanla Van Zant. I will say it wasn't all bad, but the one thing that I did learn through that journey and that book was accountability, about
Yes.
taking responsibility for what it is that I allowed to continue without using my voice to say, I don't want this. Stop that shit. It's not cool. Like now it wasn't right that the person was doing these things to me. They
Mm-hmm.
were wrong, but I was wrong for knowing that it was I didn't like it and never voicing that I did not like what was happening. I was complicit in my silence is what I is kind of what it boils down to.
Yeah.
So, and that was at a time when I wasn't going to church at all. Was I going to church? No, I was going to church services because I was working at a school and I
Mm.
helped with choir. So I was going to church services, but I wasn't like in church. I was just kind of out of the world.
Yeah, I think everyone must define their own spiritual journey. I don't think that anyone can do it for you. And this is why I'm kind of on the side of this is why spiritual journeys sometimes don't have anything to do with religion, because usually when your spiritual relationship is connected to your religion, you have someone telling you what you should and you should not be doing. And that's kind of how you navigate your spiritual path. But I remember growing up, my father used to tell us your purpose is to serve Jehovah. And it never really landed right with me, even when I was a kid, because it was like, first of all, nigga, mind your business. How do you know what my purpose is? Just because you're my father, you know
Right.
what my, you don't, you, what about your purpose? You don't get to tell somebody else what your purpose is, because there are people on this fucking planet whose purpose has nothing to
Right.
do with anything religious. And
Right.
some people gonna feel how they want to feel about this, but there are people whose purpose, their sole purpose in being here, it can, it can't be called good, right? But there's things that they are supposed to be doing that actually align with somebody else's purpose.
Right.
So, we always agree that for every negative, there's a positive. For every positive, there's a negative. So if my purpose is to bring peace and love and joy to this area, you don't think there's a negative side to that?
Correct.
That there's someone who's going to be working against that, right? And I think when we think about it in that terms, it makes people uncomfortable because it's like, well, what if my purpose is to be a villain? What if your purpose is to be a villain?
Yeah.
I, I
I
can't
mean,
tell you that.
according to me, everybody's a villain in somebody's story.
And that's my point. So that's why it's like I can't. I think sometimes people see what other people are good at and they immediately want to attach purpose to that. Like, oh,
Mhm.
Tamara, you're so good at listening to people's problems. Why aren't you a psychologist? Because that's not Tamara's fucking purpose. That's just something she's good at. So I think when we put the focus on ourselves
Right.
and remember that only you can control only you know what road you're on or what you're headed to or what you're going to accomplish. If you want it aligned with your purpose, you have to really sit with yourself and be like,
Yeah.
is this what I want to do? And then once you figure that out, you have to get busy doing the things that lead you down that path. If
Yeah.
you easily distracted, you're gonna be all over the place. Your spiritual journey is gonna look real hectic. But I think that's true for a lot of people. A lot of people don't really center themselves and calm down until they're kind of at a point where it's like, okay, this is who I want to be. And
Mhm.
then they get busy becoming that person. And then some people, they just accept where they're at. But could they tell you that is their purpose or that's their spiritual journey? They just accept life for where it is.
Right.
And I think that's why we have to really define, what does spiritual journey mean to you?
Yeah. I mean, that's really where you start. Because again, like a lot of times, like you said, if it's affiliated with a religion of sorts, you kind of get instructions.
Yes.
It's very instructional in that way. But when you are just, because a lot of times when you're doing the spiritual journey, you really are just, again, like you said, working on yourself. But it's like you feel like you're not where you're supposed to be, regardless of whether that's affiliated with a church or not. But you
Mhm.
just are and there's things that you start to do for yourself that are different, that can be a spiritual journey in itself. Like, it doesn't have to be like, I think when you say spiritual journey, everybody always thinks like when you start to meditate and
Yep.
then I do yoga and then I commune with nature. It don't gotta be all of that. It really doesn't.
Be part of it.
It can be part of it, but it doesn't. But again, because if you define it for yourself, I mean, hell, it could be you getting up every morning and reading the affirmation to yourself when
Yep.
you wake up, and then you just go on about your day. It's very as simple as that. Could be your
Yes.
journey to take you somewhere differently. So I think that a lot of times when people hear it, they think it's way more complicated than
Hmm.
it actually is. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's what is you're in tune with and what's in tune with you. And you do get to make that choice. Like, there's not a book out there that's like, this is how you do a spiritual journey. That's If you don't buy that book, that book
But there's so much information out there, like the 20 steps to your
yeah,
spiritual enlightenment, to your
yeah,
nirvana. And some of it is kind of like, bitch, what? And then other parts, it's like you really do have to pick and choose like what resonates with you. Because for me, it's, I guess mine started, I read a lot. I read a lot, I read a lot, I read a lot. And then someone was like, "You're so busy reading. How much are you actually doing?" But I think sometimes people get it confused. You can, part of your spiritual journey is enlightenment. How do you get enlightened, right? So for some people, they think enlightenment is just it, like with religion, listening to someone tell you something. But how much are you challenging yourself as to like what you believe, what you're doing? Is it right for you? Is it right for the people around you? There's this quote that I wrote down, and it said, "Re-examine all you have been told, dismiss what insults your soul," by the good old Walt Whitman. And I thought about that as far as like, when you I don't think you once you acknowledge you are on your spiritual journey, I don't really think you ever get off. I think it's part of your spiritual relationship with whatever you have, right? I think we have to constantly re-examine what we are told,
right,
because especially if you come from a very religious background, you literally have to dissect everything.
right,
Have you absorbed this because it's something you truly believe, or has it
right.
just been handed down to you? Because for a lot of us, it has. I do
You know,
this because my parents did it, my
but you,
grandmother.
but you know what? I thought about something. I knew we were doing this today, and I thought about something that most people most people are born into religion. And
Yes.
when I know you understand what I say when I
Mhm.
say this. Like, for example, as a child, I wasn't given a choice of what religion I wanted to be. My mama started taking me to church, the church she
Mhm.
went to, the church my family went to. So I became a part of that church. So when I say I'm born into religion, it's like there are no choices given.
Mhm.
But when we get exposed to other choices and you want to explore those other choices, your family is offended.
Oh, big time.
They are offended big time, and not because they just feel like they think that what they have given you is the best option, not the only option, because they know there's other options, but they feel like for what for what they envision for your life, it is the best option. And sometimes that's not the best option. And me and you had this conversation that a lot of times people's spiritual journeys that are disconnected from church happen because of something that traumatized them in church,
Yes.
that made them leave the church to walk away from religion as a whole. A lot of times people's journeys start there because they start to explore not necessarily other religions, but something else that speaks to their soul that may not be religious at all.
Mhm.
And that's kind of where a lot of people begin with this type of spiritual journey, because you have to find what you're passionate about, and that works for you. And a lot of times that has people walking away from whatever religion they were born into. Most times is what happens.
I and for me, regardless of where my sit, and we'll get into this in a future episode about
Yeah.
like when I knew my spiritual journey had started, I was seeking answers that they did not want to give me. I was looking for truth. And I have to give a shout out to Danny on social media. She is the Unfit Christian. It's just Unfit Christian. But even though she subscribes, I believe, to Christianity and some hoodoo practices, um, I fuck with her because she speaks truth.
Right.
And she speaks in a way that it doesn't conflict with my spiritual journey, because she doesn't make it like, well, if you don't center God in this, then you not living your life right. Like, she can give you a sermon and never mention God's name once.
Right.
And you know that she is speaking about truth. Like, this is just how you would live your life if you want to be a decent person. Like, you
Right.
don't do these things to people, you don't do that thing to people. So when I think about a spiritual journey, I think about, does it align with how I want to live my life? So when
Right.
Walt Whitman said, don't what did he say? Dismiss what insults your soul. There were
Right.
a lot of practices in religion they're very insulting to me, like how they treat homosexuality or anything queer. That insults my soul. So I can't fuck with it.
Yeah.
But does that mean that that stops my spiritual journey? No, I
No.
don't think it for anybody. So anybody who wants religion as part of their life, if they are queer, so you just can't be part of no religion because these religions have boxed it in. But you know why they box it into heteronormativity? Am I saying that right?
That's right. You're saying it right.
They box that in because a lot of it is about religion pushes for procreation,
Yeah.
and you can't biologically procreate with anything but a male homo sapien and a female homo sapien. So they're gonna push that, and they're gonna
Yeah.
make it be like all this other stuff is wrong because you cannot procreate, as if that is our life purpose.
And look, that sounds like an agenda to me, but guess who they keep saying has an agenda?
I mean, indoctrination. You mentioned earlier about, people who have have had bad experiences within religion, and I know you. I don't know when we were getting to this, but that term "church hurt"
Yeah.
comes up, and I've heard people use it in very genuine ways, but I've heard a lot of people use it in very snarky ways, and I be thinking to myself like, if you wanted me to be part of your religion and you thought that I was a good candidate, do you think talking to me like that in this snarky way, like, oh, you just sound like you have church hurt, do you think that that would
Right.
make me come over into your fold? And that's, again, I mentioned an unfit Christian, because when she talks to people, she doesn't have this condescending tone. She understands there are lots of people out there who, on their spiritual journey, they have been harmed within their religious organization. And instead of being like, you can't bring that shit over here, she's very understanding and compassionate about it. Like, yes, that can turn you off to all things religious.
Right.
But if you want to get down with some religious practices, I got your back. I'm not
Right.
going to force you to do nothing. You do what you feel like, but it's all love over here. We are welcoming. And I think that helps with people's spiritual journey too. I think that would encourage people to kind of align their spiritual journey with religious practices that
Right.
help them, if it was that. But that has not been my experience.
Yeah, I have. There's a young man, and I cannot think of his name, his full name, but his first name is Darnell, and he's on TikTok, and he deals in what he calls deconstruction of Christianity,
I
because
think I know who you're talking about.
he wears glasses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he always talks about because he actually got his PhD in theology. Like he went the whole route and then was like, this is crazy. Like, oh, you know what I mean? And I respect that, because it's kind of like you wanted to learn all that you could learn, and then you realize like something, we let me step back, because some of these things are harmful to loads of people in society. So
Mm-hmm.
he breaks down different things and how things are. A lot of times he will post like a sermon from like someone who will have posted, and then he'll take the sermon and kind of break it down and explain, how these things are harmful, or what is being said, or what is being issues are being forced, and all these different things. But I enjoy watching his breakdowns of things, because I do recall being like, it's really funny, because I feel like a part of me, because I grew up in church, I always wanted to have that connection with church, but
Mm-hmm.
I had to find the right church for me. And again, I have all types of questions about Christianity. That shit is jacked up. Like, I'm gonna say that it's jacked up. Um, but I think that there are some aspects of Christianity that I personally enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
that I was seeking out. So for me, I just always think about all the times that I sat, and because I was seeking that connection, I would, I'm the Potter's house down for a while, and then I just was like, TD Jakes, like I was I was Joel Osteen down. Then I was like,
No.
you turned away the people in your community when it was flooding, my nigga. You are not a good Christian. Like, am I? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
so these things happen, and then it's kind of like, I had to address myself. What are you looking
Yes.
for? What are you looking for that you
Mm-hmm.
gravitated toward these things, and these things were turned out to be like horrible things? So you really, again, like you said in the beginning, a lot of spiritual journeys really are about yourself. And I can attest to wanting to start another journey. Um, you know, God rest his soul. Trail. Fave. He
Mm-hmm.
because Fave became an ordained minister in
Mm.
during our friendship. He was always in church. That was never like a he was always in church, but he became ordained. And me and him used to have lots of conversations about God, just in general. Like we would have all these very in-depth conversations, and I enjoy having those conversations with him because, like you said, like Danielle is, he was that for me because it was never about if you sin of Jesus. It was always about what is it with you. He would always center it around me when we would have these conversations. So I miss him dearly because I miss those conversations that we used to have all the time. But I think that once I started having those conversations with him, it opened my mind to want to seek out what it was that I needed versus what was expected for me to seek out. So yeah.
I mean, as Black people, it is expected, even by our peers, that you have a church home, that you go to church at least on the big holidays or the big, the big days of the year, like Passover, or in the case of Jehovah's Witness, you go to the memorial of Christ. You go on Christmas, you go like major holidays or whatever.
Yeah.
You be in church. You pray. That's a big thing amongst Black people. And if you say that you don't do these things, you get the biggest side eye. But that's part of, I know this word, it rubs people the wrong way, but I mean, that's part of the indoctrination of religion. It's like, you must do these things. And I think for Black people, religion has become this big thing. And it's very important to a lot of Black people because for the longest, that's all we had to hold on to, right? So I know a lot of people are like, oh, they make everything about slavery. But prior to that, prior to colonialism, we was out minding our business. We had our, and we'll get into this next week, but we had our spiritual practices, our rituals, things we did to like support our communities, like to give thanks to whatever provided for us, the rain, the sun, the trees, the vegetation, whatever. We were thankful and we did that. And it was, our practices were considered demonic.
Correct.
So here comes another thing ushered in to say, hey, well, practice this. And it was more palatable to the masses. So now it's kind of like the masses. But I think once you get into the groove of things and it becomes so much a part of our history, when you're not doing it, it switched from, this is downloaded to us from them folks. And we made it our own. Like, this is when we get to come together. This is when we're all peaceful together. We are congregating together. Why would you not want to do this, right? But because humans go human, that is why some people don't want to do it.
Right.
And I think it needs to be said more that your spiritual journey doesn't end because you choose to not do what your family has done. Correct. Or what's been the norm for your people over time. Like, there's some people who go back to, I want to know, and I used to ask this question like periodically on like all my social media. What do you guys think that we were doing before Christianity came into the picture? And niggas wanted to argue me down about how we were practicing Christianity before colonialism. I said, that's not what I asked. I said, what were we doing before Christianity came on the scene? Because Christianity has not been out as long as civilization has been out. There are religions that are way older than Christianity, but nobody ever says that we were practicing Hinduism.
Right.
And nobody said that.
But you know what? Here's the thing that I want to say about America. If you the religion in this world that has the most people that practice it is Islam. And you would think, based on America that everybody's a Christian, and that there are more people in this world that are Muslim than any other religion. So the notion that when people start talking about Christianity, like you asked, what were they doing, and people immediately jump to defend Christianity, girl, you is outnumbered. Y'all ain't even the number one spot. Like, you know, you understand what I'm saying?
But factually, that wasn't the first thing we were doing either.
Anyway, yeah.
So I ask, do you know what we practiced prior to religions that were introduced to us? And that is when the crickets come in. Because one, they either don't know and they don't want to admit it, or two, they know what the fuck we was doing, but that would mean they can no longer demonize practices that they've been saying are not for our people. When originally that's what the fuck we've been doing. So I think that's why it's very important for everyone to define their own spiritual journey, because it may not have anything to do with any of that.
Yep, not at all.
I've studied tons of religions, and just I keep emphasizing your spiritual journey is about getting to know yourself, or accepting who you are and letting go of who you're not.
Right.
And part of that is the part of me that I know maybe if I had grown up differently, this would be different for me. But the authority, having someone above me, and I'm not talking about any celestial beings or spirits or whatever, but I'm saying having another human tell me what I can and cannot do, and it has nothing to do with legalities. You need to get the fuck out of my face. You don't pay none of my goddamn bills. You don't, so you're not 24/7 support for me and my child.
Right.
Like, if I can't call on you at any given time of the day, evening, a night, you don't get to tell me what to do. So when I make decisions that are best for me, you cannot tell me what is for my greater good.
Right.
Right? I'm supposed to trust myself enough to know this. So as I'm going along with my little spiritual journey, here you come trying to insert yourself and be like, let me guide you. I don't need that.
Right.
And honestly, most people don't need that. They're not taught to trust themselves and make good decisions for themselves. So they look for other things to anchor them.
Yep.
And most of the time, I don't want this to turn into anything where people will misinterpreting what I'm saying. I'm not saying religion can't be your anchor, because some people do need that to keep themselves on the straight and narrow, because they get distracted real easy and be like, I'm finna go do felonious shit. But I mention it because me and Tamara's spiritual journeys are very different. She done circled the block and been like, you know what? I need a church home. I need this for myself so that I can continue down my spiritual journey. And who knows? She may continue down that path until death do her part. For me, I know who I am to stay grounded and focused. I don't need that. But I do know I need other things to keep me on the straight and narrow, because there's tons of distractions out there. But excuse me, a spiritual journey, I think, is very much like a healing process. It doesn't stop, it just evolves.
Yep.
You get better at some things and then you move on to something else. Like, okay, but I think it's the thing that resonates with everyone is you have to be in a place where you know that you're in a place of constant growth.
Right. That's correct.
So when you get to that place, and I was having a conversation with Amy when we were doing reading with friends, and we were talking about the therapist on Instagram, Niedra, saying a common phrase that people use, that's just who I am. It's pretty much saying I'm not going to change.
Correct.
but she pointed out that we are constantly changing from the moment of conception. Constant change is happening. It never stops till the day that we die. And I don't know if people know this, but even when you die, your hair and your fingernails still grow.
Yep.
As long as you're not cremated. Right? So change is constantly happening in the body. So for us to say, this is just who I am, you are literally preventing yourself
Right.
growing.
It's like you put root down into the ground and you just like, no. Why? I'm a person who loves change. So I'm excited for that. Like, change makes me excited.
Who do I get to become? But some people
Yeah.
are seriously frightened by that. So I think those are the spiritual journeys that kind of come to a halt.
Yeah.
When you prevent yourself from growing, you're only going to go so far. But I can imagine, like, I think about these 4 trees they cut down at our promenade, and it was because their roots had they refused to grow the way that is accustomed for these particular trees to go, and they were growing in a way that was like really erratic.
Okay.
And I feel like that's kind of how people who be like, I am who I am. You think that you're not, like, your growth stops at that point, right? I don't think they're thinking in literal terms of that, but you are causing so many issues by refusing to grow.
Right.
So what happened with those trees?
They
They
got cut down.
fucking got uprooted.
Yeah.
Okay. They're like, you're a problem. We have to get you the fuck up out of here. And I
Yeah.
feel like that is essentially what happens in all of your relationships. When you choose to stop growing, people be like, they got to get the fuck up out of here.
Yeah. You gotta go.
We can't work with this anymore. They're causing too many
This
problems.
ain't this ain't doing what you think it's doing.
Right.
We out.
So I think spiritual journeys are key to just being a better person.
I mean, no, I agree because I feel like a lot of people are horrible human beings out here, and they need to grow spiritually. I mean, and I'm saying that like I'm laughing when I say that, but like some people just are not good people. Like at the end of the day, they're just not good people, and somewhere along the line, they didn't challenge themselves to become better people. Because I think that's an internal. You have to challenge yourself to be a better person.
It's true. Another thing about spiritual journeys is, and I saw this conversation when the term shadow work is mentioned.
Oh,
A
good
lot of
God.
people kind of cringe and they're just like, what is this demon shit? And someone said, I think people are getting the Book of Shadows confused with shadow work. But that is part of your spiritual journey, and it's not this demonic thing that people think it
No,
is.
it's not. It's not.
It really is working on yourself, working on the subconscious things that are threatening to destroy
Yes.
everything you've built up to this point. Like, what are your things that you don't work on purpose, that you are shying away from, that could possibly be destroying your life or preventing you from growing? Work on those things. Don't be afraid of them. They're part of
Yeah.
you, right? Like the things that you sit with at night about yourself that you don't want to talk to nobody
I
else
am out.
like, why? Address those things.
There's a because I'd be on TikTok. There's somebody wrote a shadow work journal or something
Yes.
like that, and
Yes.
every other video, it's somebody advertising this shadow work journal. And one girl that I came across, she was like, "Look, I know that the book is popular." She was like, "But I had to block a bunch of y'all." She said, "Because I don't want to see that every 5 seconds."
Listen, because I don't like this term that I've seen a lot of people use it, like everyone is toxic. No, bitch, you're toxic. And you just want some company. Everyone is not toxic. I think to say the statement, everyone's done something toxic at one point or another, I think there's some truth to that.
Yes.
But to just blatantly cast that on everybody, like, everybody isn't toxic. Because what do you think this fucking spiritual journey is for? I'm not on this fucking journey just to get to this great point to hear you fucking tell me I'm toxic. You don't know my life like that.
No.
Get out of my fucking face. I think as you go down your spiritual journey too, you get to this point where, and I think people who get older, this resonates with them. Like your teens, your 20s, you think you know it all. Your 30s, you kind of think you know it all, but you're kind of in a place where maybe I should just shut the fuck up and listen a little bit because look at my life. Like,
right.
Maybe I need to like do some things differently. But I think once you get in your 40s and your 50s and your 60s, you get to this point where you're just like, that doesn't concern me. I don't really care about it. But I think I have to give credit to the spiritual journey that helps with that because you learn to mind your fucking business.
Yeah.
Worry about yourself. What are you doing to help yourself?
Yeah. Because I think that when you get to my age,
yeah.
like it's a, you know, I can't be concerned about things I cannot control, and I can only control me. So it's really one of those things where it's not even about you minding your business. It's just like that has nothing to do with me. It ain't
but
even
that's
about
minding your business.
Yeah, it's like that literally has nothing to do with me. Like, I don't know, girl. Like people ask me like,
but
I
these
don't even
spiritual
know.
journeys, it gives you a place to recognize the balance in that too. Like, okay, what do you need? What do you need to mind your business about and what do you need to speak up about?
Right.
Because I do honestly think anyone who will not stand up for themselves, they will not stand up for you.
Oh no, because they don't know. Well, because they don't know how.
No, don't do that because that's giving a huge excuse to a lot of people who just they're not going to stand up for nobody because they don't like conflict. They don't
Oh,
like to
that
be
too.
wrong. They don't, you know what I'm
They don't like
saying?
that.
Like there's a multitude of reasons why people will not stand up for themselves or address things that would help them along their spiritual journey. They definitely not going to do it for you. And a lot of it boils down to fear. I will say that. There's tons of reasons why. Everybody has reasons why. I don't think it's one particular thing, but I do know it's true that a person who will not stand up for you for themselves, they won't stand up for you. Spiritual journeys help with that. That's
Yeah.
I think that kind of falls in shadow work because you can sit over here and watch somebody get some undeserved treatment and say absolutely nothing like that ain't none of my business. But that's when you should be minding somebody's business, right?
Oh,
Like we talked about in The World is a Ghetto. Them people, that cardinal, there's no way in the world somebody wasn't aware of what was going on,
they're always aware of that,
right?
and
Those are
that's why I
times
said
when you should speak up.
and that's why I say they're not good Christians because
Right.
because you call yourself a Christian, but you just moved that man to another church so he can molest some more kids. Y'all are not doing the work of you're not doing the work of your Lord at all.
Right.
Not at
You
all.
not.
Not the instruction book that you're utilizing. You're doing none of the things that are in this book to serve the people. You're doing none of that. Again, children are people. Obviously to them,
right.
children are people.
Those people were on a spiritual journey to hell.
Yeah. Gasoline draws, speed elevator down.
I am determined to go down.
Look, let me just go and hit the button.
Right. So as we continue this this spiritual journey series, me and Tara will be talking about different practices and this now those practices and rituals and stuff, sometimes that is very much so aligned with religion, and we'll get into that. But I do think part of my spiritual journey, there's different things that I'm pulling from different areas. And I know some people be like, what? But you can't tell me how to get from A to Z in my life, bitch.
Right. I mean, you know, like I said, like I have recently found a church home, but that don't mean that I'm not willing to burn some names in a silver bowl. Like I'm I'm gonna do what works for me.
And that is another reason why I listen to Pastor Danny, because she doesn't just focus on Christianity. Like, she has different practices. She actually does divination. And I know some people be like, demons, divination is in your Bible. Read your
Baby,
goddamn Bibles, please.
you know they don't read that book.
Please. It's the Bible. And you can't be like, well, that could only be practiced in Jesus' time. If you don't shut the hell up.
I mean, look, that can only be practiced in Jesus' time, but everything else can be practiced right now. I need y'all to stop picking and choosing in that book. Stop, don't do it.
That cherry picking is annoying. But yes, Tamra will be talking about her personal spiritual journey. I will be talking about mine, and we'll let you sit and see what else we got coming for you.
Yeah.
So until then, adios.
Bye, y'all.